I grew up with a entrepreneurial family and a father who really pushed me to dig into my talents and push myself. I really learned at a young age what it meant to um, reach past what I thought were my limits. And when I came into my faith more deeply in college, I had a very difficult time reconciling how do I receive my identity from Christ, receive his will for me, while also having this burning passion for business, for achievement. And it took a long time to come to a peaceful place of understanding that our greatest ambition is to become saints.
Friends, welcome to another episode of Prosper, the podcast of the Sioka Center, the entrepreneurship center at the Bush School of Business. We are the place where innovation meets personal vocation. I'm your host, Andreas Widmer, joined as always by my colleague, Sioka Center Executive Director, Rebecca Teti. Rebecca, good to be with you again.
Thank you, Andreas. And thank you to everyone who's joining us wherever and whenever you are. In this episode, we want to introduce you or welcome to Prosper, an old pal of the Sioka Center, Elise Crawford Gallagher. She is the wife and mother of two little girls and also the the COO of a family business, J.C. Law, which is a regional criminal and domestic law firm based out of Baltimore, but with offices in Pennsylvania and Virginia as well. And I think Elise is joining us from the King of Prussia office today.
Yeah. And I think, we go a ways back, all three of us. And I think so before JC Law, Elise was the founder of Ringlet, a marketing agency specializing in women-owned businesses, which she took from a one-woman show to a business with 8 employees. And full disclosure, we're a client of Ringlet and have worked extensively together. That's not the only reason why we know each other. Fascinating. In 2018, she founded Catholic Women in Business, a resource and online community of over 7,000 Catholic working women. And also, together with her colleague Taryn DeLong, she authored a book, Holy Ambition, Thriving as a Catholic Woman at Work and at Home.
So Elise Gallagher, welcome to Prosper. And we always start with a warm-up question, which is, what is the best thing that you're reading right now?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Rebecca and Andreas. It's a joy to be with you. Yes, we do go back a while. It's been, if you can believe it, almost 10 years of working together, of networking together, upholding one another in our business endeavors. So it is a real joy to be with you today. I just started over the weekend a new book called Your Eucharistic Identity by Father Gregory Pine, OP, and it is excellent. I actually was friends with his cousin in college, and so I've been following his career. He was at the Dominican House of Studies at CUA, which is where I graduated from for undergrad, and it is a perfect book to read for a young mom to read for about 20 minutes and really get a dose of spiritual nourishment and then have to, put it down and put someone in the bath and get them ready for bed. So it's a really great book with a big punch.
It's going from the inspiration to implementation in 20
Exactly.
minutes or 15 minutes first, right?
Exactly.
Did you start Ringlet right away after you graduated from college, or was there something in between?
No, I didn't. From college at CUA, I graduated with a degree in philosophy. I went to the John Paul II Institute and started my MTS in marriage and family studies. And it was during that time that I really had the space to think about what the Lord was calling to me in my life to do. It was a real bridge time, season in my life. And eventually I discerned that I really was called to have a career in the business world. And the way that I entered that business world is through marketing. So I went from the JP2 Institute to Johns Hopkins and got a master's in marketing communications. And from there was working a few jobs during that master's. I was living in DC at the time and working a few jobs. I was working for the USCCB at the time. I was also working for a PR firm up in New York. So really got to know all different kinds of marketing and PR work, and decided in 2017, towards the beginning of 2017, that I saw a need in the Washington, D.C. area for a small marketing firm that would work with women-owned business owners. And entrepreneurs who needed the support of a small business without the bill of a large communications agency. And there really wasn't anything in the DMV at the time that was offering those business services, such as website building, social media marketing. We did a lot of photo shoots, and even down to copywriting. We did really the full service marketing for small businesses. And we did that through 2022 and then decided to pivot after that.
What made you focus on women-owned businesses, besides that you were a woman-owned business yourself?
Sure. So not only the underfunding of women-owned businesses. So women-owned businesses get a very small percentage of venture capital each year. But I saw that women really needed to integrate their lives and their work in a different way than men. So you mentioned Andrea's Catholic Women Business, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit. But when I was working with these women in DC, they had families. They had maybe they weren't necessarily married. I worked with a lot of married women and moms, but they were maybe they were all very involved in their communities and their families, whether they're married or not. They had very full lives. And so they needed a business that fit that lifestyle. I understood that we might have a call at 7 p.m. at night because, if they had to pick up their kids from school or a kid was sick or something. And so our marketing agency Ringlet allowed for these women to have a more integrated lifestyle, and working with them to make sure that their business goals were accomplished.
I've always been a great fan of what you're
Oh,
doing,
thanks, Andreas.
because we need role models and examples, and we can't, as Catholics, I think it is very important that we show that women who want to be in the workforce and in leadership at work, that there is a path and there's role models who do this. And while we may not want to do this exactly how the secular society wants to do it, we need to create those options, and we need to be creative. And you're such a creative business person who actually creates opportunities for others. I mean, you had to go through this yourself. I don't know when. I wanted to ask jokingly when you gave up sleeping at what age of teenager, because it makes
It's
I don't
funny.
know how you're doing all the things, or how you even did all the things. You're
Oh,
doing more
thank
now,
you.
but what you're doing is you're creatively participating in helping women find their, as John Paul says, their genius, right? And in the workforce, that might look slightly different, and we should have. I mean, heck, we create all kinds of options for work and everything. Why not create this in a way that really optimizes this for somebody who has kids and works and maybe has parents to take care of and they're elderly and so on? That kind of flexible workspace is was that the original idea? And then what's your experience with it? What were the challenges? What were the opportunities?
Sure. So I think it has changed a lot since the pandemic. It has originally during the pandemic, I think we saw an increase of flexibility for women in the workplace. And now I work in a very traditional system right now, the legal field. And so going from the creative field and marketing communications to the legal field has been a shift. Um, but I think being able to offer women positions such as our of counsel. So I work with attorneys. Our attorney of counsel position is a position where is fee split instead of salary based. So attorneys can work whenever and however, but as long as they get their billable hours in whenever they can. That's been a great option that we've integrated into the firm in just the last 18 months, along with my business partner, Claire Conway. She's really headed that program.
Who's also esteemed graduate, actually from
She
our
is.
program.
She's right down the hall for me right now. Yes.
You have good
You should
taste.
make
No,
her
I have good
come in and
taste.
wave or something.
Yes, I'll
Yeah,
have her do it.
she's another force of nature.
She is.
She has been when she was here, and I think
Mhm.
she intern with you first, or
She did. So she worked with me at Ringlet for about 5 years, and then I pulled her over to JC Law.
At least say a little bit about the impulse to start Catholic Women in Business. So, I mean, you've given us a hint already, but what was missing, or what did you not like about what you were hearing that made you say, "Well, I need to do something else"?
Mm.
For because you were doing Ringlet at the same time, right? And so that this is like your, I don't know which is the side hustle and which is the main, but um, but you felt there was a gap somehow in talking to Catholic women in business. So
Definitely. Yes. So I can share usually I in interviews talk about how when I first started Catholic Women Business, I was running Ringlet while also being a newlywed. I just got married to my college sweetheart, and I was going to church in the and I wasn't seeing in the pews other young working Catholic women. And then I would go work at Ringlet in a very secular environment and not necessarily be able to express my faith fully. And so I felt like I was not totally integrated in my life. I was not able to necessarily call up another Catholic working woman in my parish and say, like, let's meet for coffee and work on these issues that I'm finding in my work. And I had seen other Catholic groups grow during this time, but really found that I needed a space where we as women could understand one another. And so it started as a Facebook group. We actually, Andreas, I should have updated my bio before giving it to you guys. We actually have only up to almost 10,000 women in our Facebook group now, which is really incredible. It's just grown naturally. And the conversations in there range every day from how do I drop off my kids at school and keep them healthy while also, dealing with a boss who wants me at work until 6 p.m. Or, how do I'm a newlywed, I want to plan for a family. How do I do that with being a doctor? There are women from all different careers and backgrounds in our Facebook group, and they're some of my favorite conversations that are happening online are happening there. We also have a fantastic group of editors and writers who publish about 3 blog posts a week on our website, catholicwomenbusiness.com, and those articles are just fantastic. These writers dedicate and donate their time and their heart and their thoughts to sharing their experience as a Catholic woman in business with our community, and I'm very grateful for that.
but as a juxtaposition with Ringlet, you couldn't rely on people doing free work,
No,
and you had to be profitable. And
it's
I
very
just
true.
because a lot of our listeners are gonna say, yes, Elise, but tell me, how do you close your first customer? How do you make ends
Oh
meet?
yeah.
Because that's really where this goes from a hobby or a passion effort to you actually did build a company.
Hmm.
And can you talk a bit, just having in mind people who listen to you to say, well, I would love to start a marketing agency, but how do you even, I mean, how do you get your first customer, and then how do you make ends meet to eventually move into profitability? And does that start with the first project, or tell me a bit about your experience with that?
I've learned a lot. So starting Ringlet, Claire, to give her credit, likes to say she operates in blind ambition, and I identify with that. Just, I was 25, 26 years old. It was like, I have a gift that I can offer other women, and I'm going to do it. And so I had blind ambition to just open an LLC and start. I can tell you, I made financial sacrifices in the beginning in order to fund the company. So, yeah, really looking back now, my husband at the time was in law school, working part-time, working as a teacher full-time, and then I was running this business. We lived on a very small income, but we made it work through a lot of budgeting, um, and it was a very big deal when I could bring on Claire to work on the business instead of in the business. So I was working in the business, I'd say the first 2.5 to 3 years. And then those other 3 years, I was really working on the business to grow our operations and our sales. I'm sure you guys talk a lot about sales with your podcast interviewees. And that really growing and securing our sales funnel was the way that I was able to make us profitable. I have to say now, in operating an 8-figure law firm across 3 different states, the way that I approach profit is different than when I was an agency. As a small agency, even with 8 people, we were servicing about 150 clients a year, and that was s- larger, but still enough where I felt like I could have a handle on what was going on in each account. Now, as COO of the firm, I really have to rely on other people to produce the results that I need in order to keep the firm functioning. And that's been a whole new learning curve for me, um, to go from one to the other.
Hold that thought if you would, because we want to just pause here briefly, but we're going to be right back with more from Elise Crawford Gallagher. Friends, thank you for supporting us all the way to season 4. If you're enjoying this episode, please express that by subscribing so that you never miss an episode, and by leaving a great review, which helps us a great deal. We'd also love for you to find us on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or X and leave a comment, a question, or even a suggestion about a future guest. We love to hear from you, our listeners, and it really does help tell the algorithms who needs to hear from Prosper and our wonderful guests here. We're entirely donor funded, so we rely on your support, and we thank you for it. And now let's get back to our guest.
Welcome back to Prosper, everybody. We've been talking with entrepreneur and J.C. Law Chief Operating Officer Elise Crawford Gallagher about her career path. And now we want to talk a little bit more about her book, Holy Ambition. Elise, give me a brief summary of the book so the listeners get an idea of what it is about.
Absolutely. So, Holy Ambition really came about when Taryn, my co-author and co-president of Catholic Women Business, was in communications with Ave Maria Press, and they were going back and forth on a book proposal. And Ave Maria recommended that we look more deeply into our community of Catholic Women Business. So, Holy Ambition was really born out of all of the questions that we see frequently in our Facebook group of Catholic Women Business, and the conversations we're having in our in-person events and our online events. And a lot of it came back to the word integration, which I know I've used a lot. But we, throughout the book, answer 8 questions, which were the most asked in our community. And we interviewed a wonderful group of entrepreneurs and business owners who also contributed to the book and answering those questions.
I'm going to throw one at you because I can just almost anticipate that some people will hear the word ambition and say, isn't that a bad thing? What do you mean, holy ambition?
Absolutely. So I really struggled and wrestled with that in my 20s. I grew up with a entrepreneurial family and a father who really pushed me to dig into my talents and push myself. I really learned at a young age what it meant to um, reach past what I thought were my limits. And when I came into my faith more deeply in college, I had a very difficult time reconciling how do I receive my identity from Christ, receive his will for me, while also having this burning passion for business, for achievement. And it took a long time to come to a peaceful place of understanding that our greatest ambition is to become saints. And the saints were instrumental in helping me understand ambition. Throughout Holy Ambition, we also highlight 8 different saints or blesseds who highlight ambition in their own lives. That gave me permission to not be afraid of my ambition, but rather to offer it to God as a way for him to use me as an instrument to accomplish his will.
I mean, ambition. Yeah, if we turn it in other ways, an ambition for what? I mean, the question is, do we mind that Michelangelo was ambitious with the Sistine Chapel?
Mm-hmm.
And that was not that was not a non-profit work, by the way, because he made a living with that.
He
That was
did.
his business, yeah. And so I think ambition in that, but we can replace the word with excellent. Like you pursue
Agreed.
excellence in
Yeah.
whatever you do, and I think
Right.
that's justified. That's a justified thing. Is that a topic that, like you say, it was something that came up as one of the key questions on the group? Was it mostly Facebook group
It
or
was. It came up in our Facebook group, but also we've been doing virtual meetups for as long as Catholic Women Business has existed. And it came up over and over of, well, I think sometimes Catholic women have this image, this box of what they think Catholic womanhood is, and they have a hard time fitting themselves into that or not looking deeper at what God is calling them personally to. I love, again, the saints because they have wildly different experiences, stories, gifts, talents, backgrounds. And so they really show us the Lord calls all of us individually to excellence and to holiness.
the beauty of the beauty of what you're doing? We talked about it before the break. To me, the value, and we try to work on this, Rebecca and I here as well, but in the business world out there, you can really experiment with this, is to go beyond sameness. This whole debate between men and women. I subscribe to John Paul's vision that we are equal but not the same, and therefore there is a gift that we lose if we don't allow the genius of women to contribute to the innovation of how we're doing things. And I think so. Why not let female ambition help us pursue our excellence at work, which is different, which would be different. And that we are complementary. You can be equal and complementary. And by creating this uniformity, in a sense, or pursuing a uniformity, we're doing humanity a great disservice, because the innovation and the beauty at work is diminished by not having both uh, male and female ambition or innovation at hand. Did you have some male voices in your book, or this is or did you put a juxtaposition,
Well,
or?
I have to say I have your voice in it, Andreas. I do bring in I do bring in your vision of entrepreneurship. So yes, I have to say we have some male influences. But if I could add to that, I really see John Paul II's idea of the new evangelization and view of the feminine genius rooted in actually Saint John the 23rd's call of the Second Vatican Council. And I have, our family is devoted to, he's our patron saint, John the 23rd. I had a really deep prayer experience in front of his tomb back in 2018 when I was determining whether or not to start Catholic Women Business. And so I am constantly drawn back to those two popes, their teachings, and I hope that Holy Ambition, our book, is a continuation of their vision for the feminine genius and the new evangelization. I think business, as you guys are always talking about, is essentially, hopefully, a vehicle for evangelization.
Something that you say, that you and Taryn say, I think it just right in the up front might be, I don't know if it's the first chapter in the introduction to Holy Ambition, is you talk a little bit about the so-called mommy wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think these have faded somewhat, is my impression, or maybe I'm just old and don't. So it's not so much fresh to what I myself read and come across all the time. But I think they've died down somewhat. But there used to be a real kind of heated online debate between women who were quote unquote working, meaning outside the home, and the stay-at-home mom. And one of the things that you guys say, and it just echoes John Paul II, but you say that work is not need to be a polarizing choice, but it's actually our birthright, and that if you're having a fight between one of these polarized extremes of where, like, if you work outside the home at all, you're somehow violating your feminine vocation, versus versus, you know, I don't know, condescension towards the stay-at-home mom. Either of those things is kind of a flat. The stereotype isn't the word I want, but as you say, a box, as opposed to, it's the wrong way to think about work. The real question is, work is something that exists in the Garden of Eden before the fall. It's not a punishment. It's something that we get to do. We get to collaborate with the Lord um, in the ultimately in the completion of creation. And it's where are we called to work? Where are we called to give our talents? Where are we called to bring value to others, as they say in the business world?
Absolutely. I would agree with you that the so-called mommy wars have died down a little bit. I have seen, I actually have to, for all the evils of social media, I actually have to credit social media for, I think, that dialogue between women about working versus not working, etc. I think that dialogue has definitely, especially since the pandemic, has been more um, empathetic and understanding. I wish in my 20s I had realized that my career was not going to be linear. I saw my dad working, my mom was at home, and he started his law firm right out of law school. I'm running it now. We're still, it's been 35 years of him working in that same job. Um, I have gone through seasons in the last 15 years where I am working full time, I'm working part time, I'm working in an office, I'm working from home, I am on maternity leave, I have very difficult pregnancies, so I have to usually take a leave of absence for a period of time. So it has gone like this. It's been very much not linear, and as women, we talk a lot about seasons of work. That some seasons may be more intensive towards work, some seasons may be more intensive towards family, and it's more of a fluid path of work instead of, I'm just going to work in this same job for 25 years. And that gives, at least for me, realizing that gave me um, allowed me to take a breath and say, okay, even if for the next year work is going to look like this, it might not always look like this. And it allowed me to be more open to what the Lord's calling me to and my family to in this particular season, especially when you have kids. You both know, 1 month looks different from one to the next because of childhood development and school changes, etc.
I totally agree. I think I do a lot of, we have work-life balance talks, and people talk about this and they feel like you can implement this on a daily basis, and you can't. There are times where this is way out of whack, and I think you should look at months, quarter, years,
Mm-hmm.
and decades. The
Absolutely.
decade when your children are younger look different than the decades when your children are 20. Um, you know, but I think again, what I love is the term of creativity in this. Just like we are creative at work, we should be creative with our work-life balance, and to have a bit of a longer, a wider view than a day or a week, and work with each other to say we can also, in the seasons. One of the things we teach is we teach people to help to partner with others who have um, complementing talents. Like you have a talent where I have a non-talent, and vice versa. And this way you can actually make a really strong team. And that's the same with the seasons, that you have a team that can help each other through their respective seasons, that when somebody's on, somebody's is not, and so on. I think is your co-author Taryn. Tell me a bit about her. Is she in Ringlet as well, or she was
She's
more on
not.
the.
So she worked in the HR space during her career and now is actually a stay-at-home mom full time. And then helps me run Catholic Women Business, and obviously is a author as well. So
Well, look, there will be a million other things I'd love to discuss with you, and we will. We'll have to just do this again. But for now, at least it's been so great to catching up with you. Um, let's make sure we both offline meet and chat, but also have you back. I think it's very important. It's very inspiring. I admire what you're doing.
Thank you very much. It's always a delight to speak with you both.
Before you go, Elise Crawford Gallagher, how can people get in contact with you? Like, what's the best social media place? How can they find Catholic women in business?
Yes, thank you. So I would go to CatholicWomenAndBusiness.com. That has our social media handles, our Facebook group. You can purchase Holy Ambition from there. Holy Ambition's also accessible on Amazon. And then my Instagram handle is Elise C. Gallagher. And on LinkedIn, I'm Elise Crawford Gallagher.
And as always, make sure that these resources and even the book you mentioned at the top of the episode, find their links in the show notes for this episode.
Friends, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us. We're grateful for your support. And until next time, we do hope you prosper.